Hello guys, thank you for joining me for another session here at AppSheet and more. In this video, we're going to look at option number 2 of how you can create new records from an Enumlist selection. In my previous video, I showed you how you can use AppSheet actions to create loops that go through an Enumlist and create new records. In this video, we're going to use loops as well, but this time in Google Appscript. So if you're excited, join me and let's do this in AppSheet. Alright, so we're going to look at a demo of how the second app works. So the second app is just like the first one, and I've just used the dark mode just to differentiate the two. So you notice over here I have a students tab that shows the records or the details of our students. So their full name, student ID, age, job title, course, ethnicity, and so on and so forth, right? And this is the page for taking attendance, just like our previous page. So I'm going to place the add button here to record an attendance. So on this set date, the course, I'm going to select the course right here. So let's say I select sales. So I'm going to select the student that have sales as their course. So I click here and then I'm going to select about these number of students, right? And I'm going to click done. Okay, so these students have been selected together. So this creates an Enumlist, right? Multiple selection. And once I click save, okay, and I come in here, you're going to see something. So the record comes in like this, and then bam, you see everything is created. And then just like that, I have a list of all the students and their attendance, right? Now the difference is here is that this is run by Google's Appscript, not the actions in AppSheet. And then you realize that this is also way faster. So in this video, I'm going to show you how you can do this by creating an AppScript in Google. Okay, now I know you're excited about creating the Google Appscript, but first we need to create our app. So what we're going to do is I'm going to walk you through the app I've already created for this purpose, and then I'm going to show you how we are going to be able to attach an AppScript to this so that it breaks down in Enumlist. Alright, so first and foremost, what I like to do is walk you through how the tables are structured, and then from there we look at how they are connected. Okay, so first and foremost, we have the students table. So over here we have our columns, that's the student's ID, full name, job title, course, gender, ethnicity, age, country, and city. Okay, now our key is the student's ID and the label is the full name, right? And then we have the attendance table. So over here we have the ID, the date, the course, and then the student ID. Now I want to emphasize that the course is taken from the student list. So as more and more courses are added to the student list, these automatically come here as an enum. Okay, an enum means is a selection that you can make only one. So you can select only one item from the selection. An enum list is multiple selection. Okay, so the formula that I use to select this list of courses within the student's database is called, this is the formula actually. So I say from the students table, I want you to take the course column, right? And then I want you to give me a unique of that list. Okay, and while you are at it, please sort this list alphabetically. And that's the point of the entire sort column. Okay, so this ensures that it gives me a list of all the courses within the students database, the column that is the courses, and then gives me the unique, right? So I don't have duplicates, and then it also arranges them alphabetically. So what this means is when I come to attendance and I click this last button here, hold on, I need to save this. This always beats me for some reason. So when I select course, you see I have a unique list of all the courses. If I add a new student, right, with a new course, this will automatically pop up over here. All right, so that's for the courses. Now you'll notice that when I select a course, so finance, right, a unique list of students who are taking finance shows up, right? If I select another course, let's say IT, this list is different. Okay, so this is because of a formula I have in here. So when I come here to data validity, so in this formula is that select from the students table. So this is the table. In the column called students ID, I want you to select all the records where the course for the student is equal to this row's course. So whatever course I've selected in this particular row, I want you to select all the students that have the same course as this row. So that's the point of this formula. So one that is validated, okay, you notice that when I select this course, I have a unique list of students. All those who have that as their course are selected, right? So you can now actually select from this, and then it will actually populate. Now, because this is an Enumlist, what it means is that you can do multiple selection. So at this current state, when I click done and I click save, okay, ideally I expect that this will be a combined list of all the students who were present. It's not broken down yet. So this record gives me all the list of students who were present as I took that attendance, right? So now what we want to do is we want to create independent records for each of these students, okay? So we don't want to have to do this one by one, and that's why we're using Google Appscript. So I'm going to show you how you can do this. We'll have to leave the AppSheet environment and go into the Google Appscript environment. So let's do this. Okay, so to be able to create your AppScript, you need to create a file for this purpose. So please go to your Google Drive, right? Ideally where you have, or the folder you have created for your app, and then you're going to create a file for this. Now, if you have a difficulty locating the folder, what I want you to do is come back to your app. So I'm going to go back to my app here like this. And when you go to the table view, you click view data source. Now this view data source is going to take you to the spreadsheet where this data is being stored. Okay, so currently this is my spreadsheet. And when you click on this folder icon here, right, it's going to show you the Google Drive location of the files that you're using for the app. So I click on this icon here, open a new tab, and then it opens this folder. Now I'm not going to use this particular folder. I have a folder dedicated for this. So I'm going to go there. That is how you find the folder where you can store your AppScript in. You can actually ideally store it anywhere, but then it's good to keep your files in one location so it's easier to find them subsequently. So I'm going to come here. This is where I want to store my files for the AppScript. So you click on new, right? And then you're going to come to more. Okay, then we select Google Appscript. Okay, so we're going to create this. Now, a little background about Google Appscript. So Google Appscript, right, is a JavaScript language in Google that allows you to do a lot of manipulation, a lot of creation of files, a lot of maneuvering in the Google environment. So Google Forms, Google Docs, Google Sheets, Google Drive, Gmail, do a lot of things. So it's a very handy coding language to know if you are someone who is very heavy on the Google environment. So over here, what you need to do first is to name your project. So I'm going to call this creating new rules from Enumlist, right? So that's the name of my project. And the first thing you need to do, okay, let me just put this caveat out there that I'm not the greatest JavaScript user. I actually learned JavaScript quite recently, and for the purpose of this, I'm going to teach you how to actually use what I know in JavaScript. Okay, so in JavaScript, right, you can create what we call functions. Okay, so functions are little codes that do something repeatedly. So you give your function a name. So in this case, by default, it's going to come as my function, but you can name it anything. So I'm going to call this function new rules. Now in JavaScript, we use what we call camel case. So camel case means the very first word in JavaScript is lowercase, and then subsequent words are uppercase. Now we don't have spacing, or we don't space, right, when you're creating variable names or function names, right? So that's why we use the camel case. So you see, ideally you probably do new word like this, but this is wrong. You need to put them together so JavaScript knows that you're creating a name for a function, and that's why we have the parentheses over here and the open curly brackets. All right, so once you create your function, the first thing you need to do is let AppScript know where the document is coming from, right? So we create what we call a variable, right? That's going to house, or that's going to represent the link to the Google Sheet that we're using. So we're going to say let. Now let is what we use to create a variable. You can use let, you can use var, you can use const, right? I feel like I'm in a JavaScript class right now, but please bear with me. Okay, so URL. So let URL represent, okay, so I'm basically just going to put in parentheses the link to the Google Sheet that has my data. So this sheet you opened up, you just need to take this link, copy this, come here and paste it here like that. Right? So that's the first thing we're going to do. So I know you're wondering why we needed to create a variable for the link. Well, we'll need this in a subsequent variable that is going to help AppScript know that, okay, I want you to always open the spreadsheet that is linked to this variable. So we're going to say let's spreadsheet, okay, let's spreadsheet equal to, right, what should spreadsheet equal to? So spreadsheet should equal to, then we have a method, like I said, so spreadsheet app, right, spreadsheet app dot open by URL. So I want you to open a spreadsheet app using this URL. So in there, right, I'm going to put my variable, which is a URL. Right. Now the reason why I had to go through this process is I can actually put the link in this parenthesis, but I want to make it a variable, like meaning I can change the link and then this will automatically change in the method I just created, right? So spreadsheet app dot open by URL. So open the spreadsheet based on the URL variable I've put in there, right? So now this variable represents my spreadsheet. So think of it as the container, or it's representing my spreadsheet within this coding environment. So whenever I need to mention the spreadsheet, I'm going to mention this variable. This is its name, right? So I'm going to come here, right? I'm going to say now let's sheets. Now which sheet do I actually want in this spreadsheet? So equal to, so I'm going to say spreadsheet dot get spreadsheet by name, right? So get sheets by name, right? So I'm going to open this over here and I'm going to come here and I'm going to copy the name of my sheet, right? So I don't make any mistake here, and I'm going to put this here. So get sheet by name. So in this sheet, which represents my workbook, I want you to get the sheet that has a name attendance. Okay, now we are writing the code. So now we selected the sheet. Now the next thing we want to do is we want to select the last record that has just been entered into the sheet. Okay, right, we want to select the last record that has been entered into the sheet. So I'll say, so let last row equal to, so I want to select the last row that's just been entered in the attendance sheet. Now mind you, in this code, this represents the attendance sheet I just referred to. So I'm going to say sheet dot get last row, right? And I think at this point, actually, we're beginning to appreciate how simple JavaScript is, right? It's very intuitive, it's very straightforward. The moment I learned it, I kind of got a handle of it. So sheet dot get last row, right? Now this particular one, we don't need to put any information in. We just close it like as it is, and then it's going to get the last row at every point this code what runs. Okay, now let me just do something here so that you appreciate what we're trying to achieve. Now, whenever you're writing a code, you can actually see how far gone you are, right, in terms of what the result of the code you've written is by using this function, logger dot log, right, open bracket, last row. Okay, so logger dot log is just going to log what actually this variable represents, or when this code runs, what it represents over here. So I'm going to first save my code, okay, and I'm going to click run. So let's see what happens. So it's going to give me the result over here. It's running. Okay, so now when you're doing this, you're always going to get this prompt that says review permissions, right? So you need to click on this to permit AppSheet to permit AppScript to actually make some changes to your Google environment. So I'm going to click my account here and I'll say advanced. Okay, now go to this and allow. Okay, now you have to always be careful whenever you are running someone's script, right? Because are not too sure what exactly that script does, and then it's going to delete something permanently. That's why this entire permission requirement is made. Okay, so when I run this code, okay, that's a logger.log last row. It gives me the last row within my sheet, that's attendance sheet that has data. So you see over here I have 27. So when I come here, you see what row 27 is the one that has what data. If I delete this, okay, and I come back here and I run this code again, I get what, 26. Now, the reason why I need this, or the reason why this is so important, is because it allows me to be able to pick what the exact cells. Because once I know I'm in row 26, I can say, okay, pick the value in A26 and let that represent ID. B26 represents course, C26 represents this, D26 represents that. Right? That's the entire purpose of all this. Okay, so I'm going to use this to go ahead and create a variable for each particular cell. So I'm going to delete this. It's performed as duties. I like to document my code to help me remember what each part of the code does. So I'm going to say creating variable for each cell. Okay, so now I'll highlight this using the shift and direction key and command / makes this a comment so that the code doesn't run, or this doesn't run as a code. AppScript knows that this is not code. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to try and understand the structure of our data, and then we'll come here and then we'll look at how we can use the same thing to run the code. Okay, so we have in column A, ID, column B, record ID, column C, date, column D, course, and column E, the student ID. Now, you know the ID column is supposed to be unique, right? That's supposed to be unique. So it's not supposed to be the same throughout. Here it's the same, which is wrong. It's supposed to be unique. And B, right? B is not supposed to be unique. So B helps us to know that all these ones belong to the same selection. We selected them together. C is the date, right? It will be the same per selection. And then D is a course, which will also be the same, but E will be the various students. Okay, so let's come back. So I'm going to create a code, or I'm going to create a variable for each of this. So I'll say let ID cell, right? I'll make this cell capital letter, so I stick to my convention. That's a camel case. So equal to let ID cell, okay, B is going to be basically the letter A, right, plus. Now we use plus in JavaScript to represent combination, concatenation of two data types or two data points. So A, I am combining it with a value to represent the cell. So let ID cell equals to A plus last row, right? So if I log this, just for you to appreciate what I've done, logger.log, right? And I say ID cell, okay, and then I run this. So save, run. Let's see what happens. So I get what? A26. So A26 represents what? The ID, the cell that contains the last ID in the sheet. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do this for all the other ones. So I'm going to stand here. I'll use the Option Shift down key to duplicate this number of times, so it makes it quickly for me. So we have ID cell, we have student, oh sorry, it's repeat ID. So repeat ID represents column B, right? And then we have the date cell represents column C, and then we had let me just make another duplicate of this. So shift or alt shift down or option shift down if you're using Mac as a way you can duplicate a code down. Okay, so we have course is going to be D, this is B, so it's A, B, so let me just take this out. Can I delete this? Okay, so A, B, C, D, and this is going to be E. Okay, so E is this. This is going to be student ID cell. So student ID cell. So this represents the student ID, right? So if I log any of this, right, you're going to see the values that. So it's going to be A26, B26, C26, and so on and so forth. Okay, so this selects the values, or this actually allows us to select the cell addresses of the last row. Now what we're going to do is we need to know how many students were selected. Okay, how many students were selected at every point in time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create another comment. So what I'm going to do is going to create another comment that says finding the number of students selected. All right, so we're going to go ahead and create a variable that calculates the number of students that have been selected in the Enumlist. So I'm going to use let, and I'll say selected students equal to, okay, so to select the students that have been selected in the Enumlist, I need to first select the cell, right, and then get the values in that cell. Now, you know, over here is the cell address, right, for that cell. So if I log this in the console, so students this, right, and I do save and I run, let's see what I get. E26. So E26 is a cell that contains the final input for the cell student information. So basically what I'm going to say over here is I want you to take E26 and give me the values in E26. So the method to use here is going to be sheets dot, right, get range. Okay, and then I'm going to say the range is just a cell, that's a student ID cell. When you get the range, or when you get a cell, I want you to get the values in the cell. So I'm going to click dot get value. Okay, this has nothing in the parentheses, and I'll close it. So when you get the cell, I want you to get the values in it. So get value, I'll just open and close the parentheses, there's nothing in there, right? And this should give me the value in E26. So let's run this in the console. So save and run. Good. So it's giving me this value. All right. Now I'm surprised I'm getting a student ID here, a single student ID. So let's just make sure everything is working in place. So I'll come to my app. Yeah. Okay. And then let me just record a student course. So finance 1 2 3 4 5, done, save. Okay, and then let me open this here. Okay, so okay, this is just in row 2. So how am I getting to row 26? Oh, I think I see what the problem is. I think I use a different sheet's ID. So let me just confirm. Let me just copy this ID, come back here and change this. And this is why we make this variable, right? So that we can easily manipulate it and change. I'm going to change this to, I think, all right, yes. So let's run this again. I'm going to run this. Let's see. I was using the wrong sheet name. All right, so I'm getting info here. Why am I getting info? Let's just confirm this. So I have 1 2 3 4. Okay, so there are 4 columns here instead of 5. Let's see. Right. I think we don't have a repeat column for this. Yes, we don't have a repeat column for this. So I'm going to change. I'm going to take this one out. Okay, so this is going to be B. This is going to be C. And this should be D. Okay, so let's save this again and let's run. Great, so we are back on track. So this gives us the list of student ID that was selected in the Enumlist. Now what we want to do is, this is the list, but we want to count the number of IDs in here. Now This currently, in its current form, okay, is a text. Okay, it's a text, it's not an array. So we need to split this. Without it being split, we can't count the various items in there. The best bet is probably to count the commas, but it's easier to split it and then be able to count them as single units. So let's do this. So I'm going to come here and create another variable and say, so let array of students equal to. So I'm basically going to take this variable, which is the list of students, that's a text, and split it up. So I'm going to say selected students dot, okay, and then we have several methods over here we can use, right? But what I'm going to use is split, which isn't shown here, but still works. Okay, so split by a comma. So that's basically what I'm going to do over here. And I'm going to create this array, right? I'm going to save, and I'm running this just to confirm what I have over there. Good. Now this is an array in JavaScript. Okay, so you see it's signified by the square brackets, but other than that, it looks the same way. Now with this, we can use the indexing approach to actually pick a value based on an index number, right? And that is why splitting it is very important, but we can also count as well. So now what we're going to say is let number of students equal to, right? Let number of students equal to array of students dot length. Sorry, dot length, right? We're going to run this as well. Good. So it gives us 5. It tells us that 5 students have been selected. So let's count. Let's come back here and count and see. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which is true, right? So that gives us 5 students, which is very important. Okay. So now that we know the number of students, we know the number of rows to create, right? Good. So we're going to use this to create our rows. So I'm going to come here and create another comment to move on to the next step that says creating rows for each item in Enumlist. Okay, now to do this, we have to take each item in Enumlist and then go through this entire process, right, of creating an ID, a date, a course, and a student cell, right? But we don't want to, what's the word? We don't want to do this one by one, right? And we don't know how many student IDs can be selected at every point in time. So we're going to use a loop, okay? I will not say I have the best of knowledge in JavaScript, but I think I can fairly explain what loops are. So loops are recurring actions that go on until a condition asks it to stop, right? It's written like this. So for loop is the variable that I want to use to run in the loop. And mostly I is a variable that is used as a convention, but you can use any variable name. So I'm going to start off with I equals to 1, right? And semicolon to move on to the next argument, right? And the next argument is for how long do you want this loop to run? So for as long as I is less than or equal to number of students. Remember when we logged a number of students, we had 5, right? So as long as I, which is currently 1, is less than or equal to number of students, keep on running the loop, right? And the next thing you want to do is, as this loop is running, you need to increase the value of I so that it keeps increasing until it gets to the number of students you have currently. So to do this, say I plus 1, or you can do I plus 2, or any amount you want to increase the number by. So most times you will not see people write I plus 1 in JavaScript. They will write I plus something like this, right? So when you have something like this in place, now you want to take advantage of this to indicate what should happen whilst this loop is running. So in this curly bracket I just created, I'm going to put in what I want to happen whilst the loop is running. So the first thing is I want to create a variable called test, and I'll say test is equal to I. So it's going to show me for test, when I log test, it's going to show me what the value of I is after every loop runs. And then I'm going to log this. So I'm going to say logger.log log test, right? Okay, so I'm going to save this and I'm going to run. Let's see. So something is wrong with the code. Line 22. Okay, there you go. It has to be semicolon. Okay, so save this and then I'll save. Okay, so you see we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And as soon as it got to 5, it stopped because 5 is the same as the number of items we had in the list, right? If the list was lesser than 5, this will have run up to just maybe 3 or 4 as we had a number of items in the list. So we're going to use this loop, right? We're going to use this idea or this analogy of our for loops to actually run through and create rules for each item, right? So this same condition is going to be the same, but then what we want to do, that's over here, will vary. Okay, so now what we're going to first do is we're going to create the various values for each student whilst the loop is running, and then we'll log that into a new rule. So first what we're going to do is we're going to find, so I'm going to take this one off, and then I'm going to create values. So I'm going to create what the next rule should be. This shows us what the last row is. So I'm going to copy this. I'm going to paste this in the for loop. Right. Over here. Okay. So first, I'm going to create the next rule. I'm going to call this let next rule equal to, okay, so last rule, which is what's up there, plus I. Okay, plus I gives us what? The next rule, right? So it was 1, it will add 1 to 26, like that. Okay, good. So once we have the next rule, what we can do is we can replace last rule here by next rule, right? So next rule here, next rule there, next rule, next rule. Okay, now these become the new cell references for these values. So the ID cell, the date cell, the course cell, and then the student cell have these new cell addresses as the loop runs. Now what we're going to do is we're going to change the variable names of these values, okay, so that these become new variables and we can still maintain our own variables. So I'm going to call this all next ID cell, paste this here, next date cell, next course cell, next student cell. Are you following? Great. So with that in place, I can now tell JavaScript what to do, or ask it what to do when they have these cell addresses in place. So I'm going to say sheet dot get range. Okay. Now which range do I want? I want the next ID cell. So next ID cell. Okay. And in there, I want you to put in this value. So set value to what? The ID cell. So in the next ID cell, I want you to set the value to the ID cell. Okay. And that's basically what I'm going to do for all of them. So I'm going to do Option Shift down or Alt Shift down to create new rules. And I'll say the next date cell, I want you to set it to the date cell. The next course cell, I want you to set it to just the course cell. Okay. And then for the student's ID, which is going to be interesting, for the next student ID cell, right? For the next student ID cell, we're not just going to set it to the same student ID cell, which is the Enumlist. We're going to select a particular one. So we're going to say, give me the array of students, right? And open brackets, open square brackets. I want you to select the one that has the same count number as the loop we are running. Okay, and I know this might be a bit new to those who are not used to JavaScript, so let me just comment the for loop out for now. So command / and let me try and explain this. Hold on, let me add this. So command / okay, good. So when you take an array, so logger.log like this, right, and you say array of students, right, and you put in 0, right? Arrays have a 0 index, so when you put in 0 and I log it like this, control save, and I run this, right, it's going to give me the first item in the array, right? You see that? That's the first item in the array. Let me open this. So E02810, E02810, right? You see that? Good. So if I change this to 1 and I save and I run, it will give me the second item in the array. You see that? Good. So with that in place, right? With that in place, I can actually pick every item using this indexing approach. So using this approach, right, the indexing approach, we're going to pick each item in the array, right, and then we'll create a new record for that particular student. So I'm going to take this off, right? I'm going to unfreeze or comment my code. So command / right, and yeah, that is why I have students of or array of students I. So for the first one, it's going to pick the item. Second one is going to pick the item. Now you realize that we do not want to create a row for the very first record. For the first record, we're just going to change its value, which is currently the entire list, to just the first one, right? So we will start from number 2, which is index number 1 actually in JavaScript. Okay, so with that in place, I think we are good, right? So if we create or if we run this code, hold on, I need to freeze this. If we run this code, what we expect is a new row should be created starting from the second item in the Enumlist, and it should run until it should run as long as this is not equal to the number of Enumlist. So it's going to create, if there are 5 items in the Enumlist, it's going to create 4, right? Because we do not want to create one for the first or initial one. So I'm going to save this, and then when I run this, we should see some new rules here. Okay, so we got A3, B3, C3. That's not what we expect. So let's come back here and see what's wrong. Okay, so it says next student ID cell is not defined. Next student ID cell. I have next student ID cell here. So how is that not defined? Am I missing something? Okay, let's do this again. So next student ID cell, right? Next student ID cell. Okay, I'm going to come here and I'll change this. And you also have to be very careful when you are writing variable names. They have to be the same syntax. Next student ID cell should be the same case, right? Same case, it's uppercase, lowercase, lowercase. So let's come back here and let's delete what we have over here. Let's come back to our code. Now, the reason why we were getting the cell addresses in there, so let me just run this code again so you appreciate what's happening. So I'm going to run this code again. When we come back here, you'll notice we are getting cell addresses. Good. We're getting cell addresses over here, even though this one is working properly, right? Because for the ones we referenced, they are just cell addresses in the code. Okay, so you realize that this is just A1 plus the last row, B1 plus the last row. What we need to do is from these cell addresses, we need to get the values in the cell addresses. So, okay, so that's why we need to modify this code yet again. So sheet, right, dot get range, right? So now we are getting the range in there. Okay, and then we see what get value. It's a bit of a long code for each of these, like that, right? So I'm going to copy this, right? So sheet.get range, then the range is the cell ID, and then get the value in there. I'm going to paste this here, and I'm going to paste this here as well, right? I'm going to change this to date cell, and I'll change that to course cell. Right, good. Now I'm going to save this. Let me come back here and delete what I have here from the code I ran initially, and then I'll run this code. Hopefully this time I have better luck. Okay, let's see. Fantastic. Right, so you see here now it's taking this, okay, and then it's created new records for us, right, which is good. Okay, so we have new records in here like this. Now the only downside with this is the IDs are the same, and in AppSheet you know that the ID column should differ, so AppSheet can distinct each record from each other. So we need to come back here again and modify our code. I promise this is the last time we're modifying this code. Okay, so it says set the value to this, right? Once it gets a value, set the value to this. So one way we can easily distinct this is by adding the loop value, the loop variable, which is the I, to this. So I'm going to just plus I like this. Now because this is a text, because we know that the ID column is going to be a text, when we add I to it in JavaScript, it's going to concatenate. Okay, so let me save this. I'll come back here, delete these values. Okay, come here and run my code one more time. I'm going to see what's going to happen. Okay, so when you come back here, so you see we have the code. We have 1, we have 2, we have 3, we have 4, right? So that's one quick way you can get that done. Now, what we are going to do is we need to now change this value over here to represent only the first student. Okay, so the rest have been created for, so they can go, and the first student has to remain. So that is still the initial last row. When the first entry was made, that's the initial last row. So we're going to come here. This doesn't have to be in the loop. This is very important. Now this doesn't have to be in the loop, so we're going to stand outside the loop. This is the loop, right? So when the loop is done, before you actually change this, so we're going to say sheet dot, okay, so get range. That's the last row. So we say student ID cell, this one, D plus last row. Okay, good. So get that, and I want you to set that to, so set value. Okay, so what are we setting? So what are we setting the value to? So we are setting the value of this particular cell to, so we're going to say array of students 0. Now remember I said arrays have a 0 index, so by putting 0 right there, it picks the very first value in the array. So once I do this, okay, I'm going to come here again, delete my code, this one, right? Come back, come back here, save this, right? And then I'm going to run. So come here, okay, good, and then changes that, and then we are good. So whenever there's a new entry, right, this code is just going to run through and it's going to modify the entry to make sure it looks in this structure, right? Good. So now that we have our code, we need to call something that's going to make the code run whenever a new entry is made. Okay, now we can do this in Google Sheets, right, using a trigger from Google Sheets, or we can use an AppSheet trigger, right? So to make sure that what is connected with what, with AppSheet. So let's see how we can do this in AppSheet. So we'll come back to our app over here, right? And then we'll create a bolt. Okay, so create my first automation. So create a new bolt. Okay, so configure events, create a custom event. So creating new attendance rules. Okay, so now it's going to ask you, okay, so what's the source for running this event? It's the app, and data changes to which table should cause this. So attendance, so the attendance table. Now this should only run when there are additions, okay, not updates, not deletes, just additions, right? I think that is all for now. I think I'll leave this over here. So process, create a new custom step. Okay, now here is where we get to call our script. So what should be the process? What should happen? So call a script, and then we get to put our script over here. So you click on this icon here, you go to your drive, right? So I'm going here, live demo, and I'll select my script over here like that, and I'll select. Okay, now choose a function. When we started writing the code, right, we created a function. So that's the new rules function. Okay, once we are done, we can just save this. Okay, so ideally everything has been done. So we've called in our script. So now let's see. If I click here, click on plus, select sales, select a few students like this, click done, click save, quickly come here, we have this, and then let's see what happens afterwards. Good. Good, right? So just like that, our script has run through this and it has created a code, or it has created a script for each of these items. So that is the second approach you can use to break down an Enumlist, right, into new rules. So I hope you enjoyed this video like I did. Thank you for joining, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye, guys.